That's right, you read the title correctly. I worked with Samsung on a video and actually had the NX1 in that video. Let's talk about it. And no, it's not clickbait. It actually happened. Hello, welcome to my channel, and I like to talk about DSLR and mirrorless cameras for video specifically. And lately it's mostly mirrorless cameras, but the first mirrorless camera I ever used, besides a cell phone, is the Samsung NX1, believe it or not. Samsung NX1 was released around 2015, I think? Around that time, I don't remember the exact date. But the Samsung NX1 was back at a time when actually Samsung made cameras. And the NX1 was actually one of my favorite cameras that I bought. Now this camera was not the first camera that could record 4K, but it was an amazing APS-C camera that could record 4K oversampled from 6K, not have any overheating issues, and it did it up to 4K 30. And then it did 1080p at 120 frames per second. Not only that, but you could choose variable frame rates, and at 120 frames per second, you could record audio as well in this beast. And the firmware updates came out regularly to make improvements on this camera. Now, obviously, this was one of the last cameras, not the last camera, but one of the last cameras that Samsung produced, but I absolutely loved it. In fact, it's a camera that I own two of, not just one, but two of, and I have still used it to this day. I filmed a wedding in May, and one of the primary cameras, the cameras that I relied on, was actually the Samsung NX1 because of the lack of overheating and the oversample footage allowed me to punch in on what I was recording, which was absolutely amazing. I live streamed directly from the NX1 and not any other camera. Yes, I own the R5, but at the time, the R5 was my camera to run and gun, where this was on a tripod. So let's get to the point though. First of all, I want to tell everybody that part of this opportunity is because I have been a Samsung employee. Does that make me biased to this camera? You might think so, and maybe. But I will say that the features that I've always talked about on my channel have been my honest opinion on the features that I have enjoyed with this camera. It wasn't without its flaws. It's got rolling shutter issues. It also has issues where if I move my hand here, it would focus on my hand, even though I had it on face detect mode. But those were few and far between compared to many of the advantages that this camera allowed me to have, which is why I still use it to this day, and it works great. But with that said, here's the opportunity that I was offered with Samsung. So they wanted to feature me in an article talking about this very YouTube channel that you guys are watching, as well as my health issues and how I use Samsung products with my own health. Now, I'm a type 1 diabetic and I have been since 8 years old, and they knew this and wanted to incorporate all of that in how I use Samsung products to help me get the things that I want to get done, which included my Samsung S22 Ultra, but also the Samsung NX1 was in that video as well. Now I'm gonna leave a link on the description down below, but let me describe on what it was like to kind of film for this. Now my assignment was basically talk about what Samsung product I like to use, but I also wanted to talk about my personal experiences. Now with that, I knew I wanted to feature the Samsung NX1 because the Samsung NX1 is one of my favorite cameras, and the fact that I can get footage such as when I was working out in this particular part of the video, I wanted to punch in on that footage. That oversampled video from the Samsung NX1 allowed me to punch in without losing too much detail. Now yes, the Canon R5 can record 8K. Why am I going to 6K oversampled footage? Simple, because the data rates on the Samsung NX1 make it so that I get that oversampled footage in a nice file, and it's still 4K and I can still punch in very well. But the R5 can also record oversampled 4K from 8K. So why not use the R5? This is the other advantage that the Samsung NX1 has. Not only is the autofocus pretty good, but also because I tinkered with the firmware, I could record longer than a half an hour. And that's where the R5 would fail me. The R5 would stop in a half an hour and I'd have to check on the camera every few minutes. Where the Samsung NX1, I could just pass that 30-minute time limit thanks to those little firmware adjustments I made and record for a lot longer, which it didn't go too much longer than half an hour. but I was able to do so and get what I needed. And then for the behind the scenes footage, yes, I did use my other cameras to record myself, but that's because I was featuring the Samsung NX1 in that video, and it looked pretty good and was used for the actual video on Samsung's website. Now, it's not on their main page, it's actually on their employee section, but like I said, I left the link down below. Working with them was an amazing experience, and one of the things that I did want to highlight is the fact that it's an amazing experience to see me kind of film the videos that I normally film and then have someone else edit them. So it's amazing that when your editing skills are really top notch, you can see what you can really put out there when you have that talent, especially that editing talent and those resources to make a video actually look great. So check it out below, please. Samsung had the NX1 on that video and I had to throw that in there. But what do you guys think? Do you know or recognize the Samsung NX1? Do you miss the camera? Do you wish that Samsung would come back? Now, I know that a lot of you may have questions like, why don't they come back? Or what do you know? I know nothing. I'm not in the position to be able to share that information because I don't know it. I'm a fan just like you guys and wish they got back in the camera industry because they were amazing. And I really think that they could give competition a run for its money. But at the very least, I used the opportunity to feature the NX1 in that video. Thank you, as always. Check it out below, like I said. And as always, you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys next time.